Art has developed throughout the centuries, originating as a form of communication and evolving into a symbol of identity and a popular form of protest. But how and when did it become so diverse? I'm here to find out whether street art and graffiti live up to the deviant branding, or whether it's actually a form of self-expression and social protest.
Often associated with political protest. You can think of ancient Rome. I'm sure they had graffiti then. I think that's where the word graffiti comes from.
From natural dyes used by indigenous tribes to industrial inks used for large-scale production, the emergence of materials used to create symbols and share stories has changed the way humans live. It's evident from birth that humans have an innate desire to communicate their needs with others, and it is thought that this is the reason that symbols were originally used. The first known cave paintings and carvings date back hundreds of thousands of years to a primitive era where there was no standard form of communication. Unlike animals, us humans have a unique ability to create abstract thought and ideas about the past and future. Cave paintings were a way to externalise these thoughts into a new form which was physical and permanent. As time progressed, civilizations began to create unique characters with which they could communicate more widely and pass down knowledge to future generations. Ancient Egyptians used the system of hieroglyphics along with paintings to tell stories. A few thousand years later, after the standardization of most languages, paintings like those in ancient civilizations became more or less obsolete as a form of communications in Western Europe. During World War II, the first examples of graffiti as we have come to know them today were drawn onto bombs to be dropped on the enemy. This is perhaps where graffiti gained its reputation as a deviant activity.
Street art itself, I think of as having originated, and I'm sure there are other locations, but we all think of New York in the 1970s and 80s as a place where train sides and public walls were being usually illegally painted by artists, but they developed their art, elaborate tags, and spent time on them. Probably before the days of CCTV, and that's when we think of the modern kind of round of street art.
As the use of CCTV in public areas increased, artists shied away from creating freehand pieces of street art in fear of action being taken against them, and instead began to create stencils. This method was in part popularised by Banksy, known for his political and controversial stencils around the world. Yeah, what do you make of Banksy? Obviously his pieces can be a bit controversial at times.
Well, he's a consummate satirist, I think. He's always been able to use the quick form of a piece of rapidly created street art to do something that's very poignant, and that is, he is in a way like a political cartoonist in the paper, but his canvas is the public walls.
After speaking to Rupert in his studio, it was time to see what the public think about Banksy.
I love Banksy. Yeah, I did an art piece on Banksy, like for my GCSE final, and it was, you know, I did a lot of research into it, and I found him really interesting to look at. I wouldn't say I had an opinion. I'd say it was like, he's a great artist, yeah, but like, he's just kind of everywhere.
I think the hype's a bit much. But I do find him very amusing and very intelligent and very astute at what's going on.
I think it's good that he's like around at the moment, because like obviously a lot of younger people know him, so you're finding out about like, you know, he's got a lot of political views, so we're kind of seeing these views and thinking, oh God, what does that mean? And then finding out like more kind of via Banksy.
You can, you know, take one of, you know, like a huge issue and condense it into like a little obvious cartoon that a 6-year-old could understand.
Hearing the different viewpoints of the people I interviewed encouraged me to find out what the legal stance towards graffiti is in England. Here's what I found. Graffiti can be considered an act of criminal damage. Under the Criminal Damage Act 1971, anyone caught doing graffiti can face a prison sentence of up to 10 years or fined if the damage costs more than £5,000. Offenders can also be prosecuted under the Antisocial Behaviour Act of 2003. However, certain cities will actually encourage artists to use their walls as a canvas, as I found in Sheffield.
There's no doubt at all that for many people in the general public, the appearance of graffiti creates an atmosphere of insecurity and fear about the streets. There's a sense that this illegal activity is just going along, and it does reduce people's confidence in the streets. In the case of graffiti, there's undoubtedly a connection with politics, protest. Even if it's just mindless tagging, there's always a little bit of anger and kicking against the establishment that is inherent in that activity.
On my journey to find out whether street art and graffiti live up to the deviant branding they are given, I have discovered that art is more likely to have been created as a form of self-expression and social protest. Perhaps Banksy was right when he said, "If graffiti could change anything, it would be illegal."